Hey everyone, and welcome to our channel. Today we're diving into the surprising waters of history. History is fascinating, but it's also full of misconceptions. We've all heard those little historical tidbits that we just to be true. But what if I told you that some widely accepted facts about history are completely bogus? We're going to unpack 10 of the most common history myths. We'll separate fact from fiction and hopefully learn a thing or two along the way. So buckle up, history buffs and truth seekers, because we're about to embark on a myth-busting adventure. Let's start with a classic, the myth that Napoleon Bonaparte was unusually short. Picture him, the Emperor of France, brilliant military mind, and vertically challenged. Here's the thing. Napoleon wasn't actually that short by the standards of his time. The myth likely stems from a measuring mishap. The French used a different unit of measurement than the British back then. When Napoleon's height was recorded in French inches and converted to British inches, it made him seem shorter. In reality, Napoleon was around 5'6" or 5'7", average height for a man in France during his time. Let's move on to another popular image. Vikings sporting those iconic horned helmets. It's a cool visual, but it's about as historically accurate as a T-Rex wearing a monocle. There's zero archaeological evidence to suggest that Vikings actually wore horned helmets. Not a single horned helmet from the Viking Age has ever been unearthed. This idea came from 19th century artistic depictions, influenced by operas like Wagner's Der Ring des Nibelungen. These artists were going for dramatic effect, not historical accuracy. This one's a biggie, the idea that Christopher Columbus discovered America. To say that Columbus discovered America ignores the rich history of the indigenous peoples who had been living there for thousands of years. How can you discover a land already inhabited by millions of people? It's like walking into a crowded room and claiming to have discovered it. Columbus didn't discover America. He stumbled upon it, and his arrival had devastating consequences for the indigenous populations. Columbus wasn't even the first European to reach the Americas. Viking explorer Leif Erikson landed in present-day Newfoundland, Canada, roughly 500 years before Columbus. So, let's retire this myth for good. Here's one you've probably heard countless times. The Great Wall of China is the only human-made structure visible from space. It's a statement often repeated as fact, but it's simply not true. While the Great Wall is undeniably impressive, it's not visible to the naked eye from space without a little help. The wall is incredibly long but relatively narrow, averaging only about 20 feet wide. From space, that's just not wide enough to be easily discernible without powerful zoom lenses. Did Albert Einstein, one of the most brilliant minds in history, actually fail math in school? Nope. In fact, quite the opposite is true. Einstein was a math whiz from a young age, mastering algebra and Euclidean geometry by 12 and teaching himself calculus by 15. This rumor likely originated from a misunderstanding about Einstein's time at a Swiss polytechnic school. The Salem witch trials. A dark chapter in American history shrouded in myth and misinformation. One common misconception is that accused witches were burned at the stake. While burning was a punishment for witchcraft in some parts of Europe, it wasn't the practice in Salem. In Salem, most people accused of witchcraft were hanged, not burned. Out of the 20 people executed during the Salem witch trials, 19 were hanged and one was pressed to death. Let's talk about Marie Antoinette, the last queen of France before the French Revolution. She's often associated with the infamous phrase, "let them eat cake," supposedly uttered when she was told that the peasants had no bread. But there's no evidence that Marie Antoinette ever actually said those words. The quote first appeared in a book by philosopher Jean-Jacques Rousseau, written when Marie Antoinette was just a child. It was likely meant as a criticism of the ruling class, not a literal quote. The pyramids of Egypt. Massive structures that have stood for millennia, testaments to the ingenuity of ancient Egyptian civilization. For years, it was widely believed that the pyramids were built by slaves. But recent archaeological evidence suggests a different story. The pyramids were built by skilled laborers who were paid for their work, respected members of society who took pride in their craftsmanship. They were well fed, had access to medical care, and were even buried in tombs near the pyramids they helped to build. Time to tackle a myth that's a bit more delicate, the chastity belt. This medieval contraption is often portrayed as a symbol of oppression, but there's little evidence to suggest that they were widely used in the Middle Ages. Most historians believe the chastity belt, as we imagine it, is largely a myth, possibly a product of Victorian-era anxieties about female sexuality. Let's address a myth about one of America's founding fathers, George Washington, and his supposedly wooden teeth. While Washington suffered from dental problems, his dentures were not made of wood. They were crafted from materials like ivory, gold, and even human teeth. The image of Washington with wooden teeth is persistent, but simply not accurate. So there you have it, folks. 10 history myths officially busted. It's amazing how these misconceptions take root and spread. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more fascinating historical insights.